sharing intelligence with the United States Secretary of State and also our intelligence services. But Secretary Rubio stating today that not much has changed in that regard, with the exception of Panamanian military exercises that we have not seen by American troops since that of the Cold War. So some tension happening in Latin America. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest warship in the entire world. So we'll watch that very closely as roughly 19 cartel and alleged cartel boats have been destroyed at the command of President Donald Trump. And these narco-terrorists who have for a long time impeded our ports and especially were successful in trafficking fentanyl and drugs over our southern border when it was open under the auto pen. We had the opportunity to speak with Daily Caller's Ashley Brassfield this week to keep us abreast on a number of different issues, including a Republican scandal for Tony Gonzalez, potentially from Texas, the congressman in an alleged affair with a staffer who sadly succumbed to burns that she sustained earlier in September. So a whole host of issues. Speaking to Ashley this week on Capitol Hill. Welcome back to RSBN's Live Desk. It's Ashley Brassfield. She's our eyes and ears in Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill reporter with the Daily Caller. Oh, my goodness gracious. We're at day 41 of this government shutdown. Well, it gets through the Senate, but with all those revisions, so it has to go back to the House now. But some breaking news. Representative Anna Paulina Luna of the Free Sunshine State of Florida has stated that Speaker Johnson notifying her regarding the reopening of a bill to ban insider trading. Ashley, I'm so excited about this because if you're Martha Stewart or a private citizen, you get an ankle bracelet. You have to go to court. But if you're a member of Congress, I guess you get that privilege of insider trading like Nancy Pelosi does.
Yeah, it's really incredible. There are several ETFs that, have been formed to really track these politicians, specifically Nancy Pelosi. Even on the Republican side, I think Dan Crenshaw, Marjorie Taylor Greene have been named even as well. So this is one of those bipartisan issues where you have kind of these politicians taking advantage, and it is legal. But I think it does play into the fact, can we have visibility of what they're actually doing and how they're making so much money, even as a public servant?
Yes, and we have with MTG as well some disagreements with President Trump on focusing on foreign policy rather than domestic policy. We know what happened last week with the elections, and I think some can argue those Doge cuts really not so great in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C., as in Northern Virginia really does make a big effect on the rest of the state. And then the Garden State of New Jersey, so many people moving out, 850,000 more Democrats registered there than there are Republicans. But we now have a communist who's mayor-elect in New York City, but people saying on these exit polls that they want affordability, which is ironic given that these policies will probably make things more expensive. So who gets it right at the end of the day here for Republicans moving to the midterms? Is it President Trump meeting with foreign leaders, or Marjorie Taylor Greene focus on domestic policies, or a bit of a mix of the two?
I love that question. I think that is one of the debates that's happening within the Republican Party right now. I do think affordability, like you said, is that new buzzword that's been used even by Democrats going into what is now the 2026 midterms, where we kind of saw it transpire in these last three elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City. But I do think this is an interesting time period where, I think President Trump made a good point in the Oval Office yesterday that he needs to be focused on, keeping our country safe from international issues and wars and finishing those. But I do think a lot of people voted for the president. We were on the campaign trail talking about no tax on tips, no tax on capital gains, all these, domestic policy issues, which some were delivered in the big, beautiful bill, but that was passed months ago. So I think there needs to be a reminder, and it needs to be palpable in some way for the American people to see that money coming back into their pockets. And that's either at the grocery store where, yes, maybe prices have dropped, or the gas pump. But I think, the cost of living, even in these, Democrat cities that continue to vote for people like socialists Zohran Mamdani, feel like the capital system is failing them. We saw educated women specifically voting in favor of Zohran Mamdani, educated men, immigrants, and transplants that came to the city in the last 10 years. So, in that city, where so much damage has been done, I would say, in the last, 10, 15 years under Democrat leadership, I can understand why they wouldn't believe in the capitalist system. But I do think this comes back down to the fact that they're offering this new solution to them. You have this higher ed degree, but all you can do is get a job at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. It is failing them to their sense. Maybe that's not a practical thing usually that usual Americans across the country are seeing, but I do think that is playing a part here. And I think the Trump administration agrees and sees that they need to, concentrate on that going forward into 2026. And GOP Republicans too. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene has a good point. You kind of saw a spat happen yesterday with the president and her, but I think there can be middle ground made there. And I think she's making a good point. I think the president understands the point as well. So I think, she's been a huge ally. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation going forward.
No question about it. And these tariffs that have led to billions coming into the United States might be a new subsidy for Americans, as President Trump has stated that he'd like to send out checks of averaging around that $2,000 mark for those who qualified based on the surplus from these tariffs. Now, some are saying it should go directly to scale down the debt immediately, but we'll see with that, as well as 50-year fixed mortgages. But that is somewhat above my pay grade in order to bring a 2026 that's going to be more affordable for Americans. And we know that Secretary Besson also stating that recently in various interviews. Now, Ashley, I had the chance to see MTG with the great Megyn Kelly doing that tour, very similar to the Turning Point tour. And she walks right out there. It felt like a Turning Point event right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. It was immense fun with my mom and with friends as well, getting together for this evening where Miss Kelly would walk out, answer questions just as Charlie did, especially if you disagree with her on various issues, but then have special guests, whether it's politicians to comedians to those in the culture wars, including the great John Rich, to honor our veterans this week. We know country music superstar John Rich loves to do that, but something that was very key in this discussion on Saturday night, that Jeffrey Epstein, and you're reporting on this, might have had a link between Russia and Israel dating back to the early 2010s into certain conflicts that lasted through 2013. Can you divulge some of this and the fact that he might be an agent or a foreign agent? What's going on with this late Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, I think this is a total Washington thing where they're playing, what vocabulary term can you put in there? And is he or isn't he it? That's just typical Washington. But what was true is that these emails were leaked by a bunch of hackers that you're talking about specifically. And we did a blurb quick report on this to kind of highlight the main points of it. But I mean, it's thousands of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and former Prime Minister, and I believe Defense Minister as well, Ehud Barak, who's a popular name within, the Epstein circle. He lived with Epstein at his New York City penthouse for a time period as well. It's a very well-known name, but obviously Israel ties as far as, coming to defense as the former prime minister. But this was during the Syrian conflict that was happening back in the 2013, 2014 era, so Obama administration. And Jeffrey Epstein was acting almost as a middleman, I would say, between trying to allow him, Ehud Barak, to have meetings with the Kremlin, with Putin, his highest advisors, to see if Russia could step in, as well as the Obama administration, and trying to oust the Assad regime in Syria at the time, who was using chemical weapons against its own people. And so I think that this was a pretty eye-opening moment to what a lot of people thought. Still to clarity on if these emails are truly from Epstein and Ehud Barak, I should preface that. But I do think if they are, it does show Jeffrey Epstein, who, he had billion-dollar clients. This is somebody who was around businessmen with over billions of dollars. That was kind of his shtick at the time. So I don't think it would become a surprise to anyone, the intelligence ties, when you're dealing with people of that caliber. So I think this isn't something that it really surprised people. That's what the intelligence ties question kind of was remaining on. So I think the assistance and the networking with higher ups in the Obama administration, in the Kremlin, in the Israeli government, it just highlights this in this story specifically. So I think, if they are true, it kind of confirms what a lot of people already believed about Epstein. And yeah, I think middleman might be that term that people want to look for. And, talking about his relations between foreign governments as well as the U.S.
And does this relate directly to the trafficking or the moving of the sex trafficking of children throughout different areas of the world, or is this more of these investments in his alleged ties to being a fixer, if you will, of those wealthy individuals and those oligarchs that crazy Bernie Sanders talks about, but always seems to be funded by?
Yeah, I think there's kind of three components to Epstein. I think there's the human trafficking ties that people still have questions to, the intelligence ties, and even the ties to higher education. He communicated with top officials at Harvard University and multiple other universities, scientists. So he had this kind of broad interest in kind of foreign policy, being around higher up business people like Leslie Wexner, who he was very close to for a period of time. So I do think that's what makes the Epstein story so interesting. It's the fact that there's so many unanswered questions still to this day. And when it comes to, the intelligence ties, this was assisting deals between countries, and in this case, to stop a war that was going on that was terrible at the time, but also assisting the Israeli government with Russia and the United States. So it kind of shows the power hold that Epstein had, allowing someone like Ehud Barak, who was a former prime minister of a country. Jeffrey Epstein's just a businessman and dealer in this scenario. So I do think it shows the power that he held if these emails are true.
Yes, it's fascinating. We'll watch it very closely. Thanks for diving into it and doing the real journalistic integrity I think that this country is yearning for. And now back stateside, rather a sad story and disgusting in a sense that we could have Congressman Tony Gonzalez, a Republican from Texas, who allegedly had an affair with a staffer by the name of Regina Santos Aviles, and she set herself on fire. I mean, this is a terrible story in Uvalde, Texas, and sadly, at the end of September, succumbing to her injuries in the hospital. And I did not know this, but based on your excellent reporting, that it's illegal in part of House ethics for congressmen to have any sort of affair, any sexual encounter with their staffer.
Yes. And I think that this is a huge aspect of the story, is the idea that Tony Gonzalez, a sitting congressman, is having a possible affair with a young woman in his district. Tony Gonzalez has 6 children and is married. So this is all alleged at this point. But I do think it's very interesting considering the circumstances around it. She was separated from her husband, I believe, at the time, has 1 child with him. So very interesting ties here, the timing of it all, and speculation, with an ongoing investigation going on in Uvalde County, Texas, about really what happened. There were surveillance cameras at the house. So still some missing details there. Obviously, all this is alleged. But speculation as to what this could lead to, whether it be a House ethics violation, having an affair with a staffer in Congress, which would violate that if that is true.
And it seems as if there is, although an open investigation, a ruling of suicide, but is there any evidence of potential foul play in a situation that just seems really just horrible and desperate to end your life in this manner, regardless of the circumstances?
Yeah, well, like I said, the investigation is still going on. So even the idea that it is a suicide, it could have been, an accident at this point as well. So not to rule that out either. But also, I think the police came out due to the video surveillance that they had seen, kind of ruling out foul play to a certain extent. She was home alone, is I believe what the police report said. So I think it really does lean back on the suicide, or was it a accident at this point?
Yes, and our thoughts and prayers involved with everyone in that situation. I even think of our great police officers who respond to tragic cases such as that, even if they're high profile or not, and they remain that because of who's involved in this case. But it's Veterans Day week, and Ashley, you and I get to do very cool things because of that First Amendment that's all defended by soldiers who take that time to serve and in many cases are willing to lay down their lives. Just some of your thoughts on Veterans Day this week as we are rushing into the Thanksgiving holiday. I can't believe how fast 2025 is going.
I know this time last year we had already had the election over, so that was pretty crazy. But yes, thank you to all the veterans out there for serving our country bravely and proudly. I think this is a great holiday to reflect back on the sacrifice made for this country. Of course, we saw President Trump at Arlington National Cemetery earlier today, having a great speech there. I think he even called into the Pat McAfee show, which is quite entertaining, to talk to some of the Marines. in Paris Island, South Carolina also. So great moments there. Of course, I think Americans are very proud of our service members and should be. So I'm very excited going into the holiday weekend. It's kind of a good time to reflect back on all the positives our country has to offer.
Yes, that is so true. And President Trump swearing in even more service members at the Commanders Lions game this past Sunday. What interview will he not do? He is all over the place with different kinds of groups, especially those sports outlets, which you see President Trump kind of seems to relax in those moments. He loves sports as we do. And before we part ways,
yeah, he might have a future career in it even. You never know.
I think so. It's you have to watch out. Pat McAfee, as one of those signs recently said, yes, I would have tackled Forrest Gump in Tuscaloosa. So Pat McAfee doesn't mess around, but we know his respect for the President of the United States and vice versa. And then moving into Arctic frost, any thoughts there as this develops? It looks like April 2022. This was really Christopher Wray's investigation. It led nowhere, but there were Republican senators and other colleagues spied on as a result of these electors who are now pardoned by President Trump this week, including America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, well, this is just a continuation of kind of what we already knew that would be happening in the last 4 years under the Biden administration, as well what happened to President Trump with the judicial system being weaponized against him, as well as people, that worked in the first Trump administration through that period of time and on the campaign trail. So I do think, there's even congressmen that have been looked at on the Quiet Skies list, including National Director of Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and multiple other congressmen that were named even on that list. So I think we have to look as a big picture of, as a country, should we be spying on our own citizens and our own politicians? It's an ethical issue going forward. I think Americans need to know about this, obviously, going forward. But I think this is why they call it the swamp. There's a lot of corruption. There's instances like this that take place all the time. And people have to be mindful of that going forward, whether it be a politician or just you and I, because if it can happen to them, it can happen to us. And so I just think going forward, Americans need to be mindful of this and who they're voting for as well in upcoming elections.
Yes, we will go forward unafraid. Thank you to Ashley Brassfield, one of the best journalists out there in Washington, D.C., in the federal city, keeping her eyes and ears on Capitol Hill and everything inside of the Beltway. The Daily Caller, thank you so much for joining us, Ashley. We'll see you again soon on the right side of history.
Thank you.
The White House reporting new data regarding lowering prices and bigger paychecks as we go into the new year. President Trump's bold economic agenda delivering real results for the American people and families, with new data coming out from DoorDash's State of Local Commerce report, confirming that inflation has been tamed. Everyday prices are now beginning to drop and wages are growing. From breakfast tables to store shelves, President Trump's agenda is lowering costs when families need it the most. Now, fueling economic comebacks that will see big gains in 2026. This is only just the beginning as President Trump seeks to make America affordable again. Grocery prices on breakfast items specifically dropping 14% in the last 6 months. Here are the main takeaways from the economic agenda and what could be anticipated as discussion points tonight with members of Wall Street. President Trump has tamed inflation. The Breakfast Basics Index, which measures the price of 3 eggs, a glass of milk, a bagel, and an avocado, decreased 14% between March and September of this year and 1.7% over the past year. Now, the Everyday Essentials Index, which measures the price of toothpaste, shampoo, toilet paper, laundry detergent, pain medication, and diapers, fell over the past year alone. Now, Americans are beginning to see price declines. Over the past year, prices actually declined for cheese, cereals, and bars, fresh fruits, frozen meals, packaged meals, and also condiments, batteries, computers, accessories, phone equipment, and medicines, oral care, vitamins and supplements, also outdoor products, toys, and games. President Trump's policies are fueling real wage growth. Nationally, wage growth is outpacing restaurant prices and their increases, including at the City Hall level. in half of the city's study. Now, local economies are very resilient. 56% of consumers say that they have seen fewer businesses close in their neck of the woods over the past year. Overall, food spend has increased nearly 5% over the last year, faster than the prices have risen, suggesting consumers are buying more than the businesses in their community. So we'll watch all of this as Secretary Bessent has been very outspoken on these numbers, and that within the first and second quarters of 2026, we'll see a massive availability for affordability here in the United States, and that ultimately the tariffs are not a hidden tax, but rather bringing back billions and billions into the American economy. This is in addition to safer numbers with operations like Midway Blitz in Chicago, the same numbers that Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to take credit for, although he's been an anti-police mayor. Since Operation Midway Blitz began in Chicago, Illinois, 16% of a decrease has happened in homicides, a 35% decrease in shootings, 41% decrease in robberies, a 48% decrease in carjackings, and a 20% decrease in transit crime. In addition to that, Operation Dirtbag, which you have probably not heard about in the mainstream outlets, sees over 150 illegal migrant sexual predators nabbed in the free Sunshine State of Florida, according to Secretary of Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, announcing that just this week. We are awaiting President Trump to host a dinner at 7:30 at the bottom of the hour here for Wall Street executives. Meanwhile, there is debate on the United States House of Representatives floor back in session on this 7-week-long, a potential end to the government shutdown, all provided to you by Senator Chuck Schumer of New York. We're watching that vote very closely. And this is Right Side Broadcasting Network in the prime time. We'll take a quick commercial break for sponsorships. I'm Robert McNeely. Do not change that dial. We'll see the president momentarily.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network live in the prime time as we await President Trump to host a dinner this evening featuring Wall Street executives and a focus on the economy moving past what many voters said on November 4th, that they were voting in the Commonwealth of Virginia to Minnesota, all the way back to the east coast of the Garden State in New Jersey, and just over the river into New York City, where they elected a communist, the Mamdani, who has gone along screaming at Tom Homan recently about, the border crisis and illegal aliens that have been apprehended by the Department of Homeland Security in conjunction with ICE and border agents who have selflessly served at the highest level. And it's really rich and ironic that these Democrats, whether it be Mr. Mamdani to Mayors Karen Bass and Brandon Johnson to those governors Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker, have all called for the removal of those masks and for their identities to be revealed when these very people are receiving death threats from some of the most dangerous foreign terrorist organizations in existence, including MS-13 to the border cartels, among countless others who somehow found their way up north of our border into the 51st state known as Canada. And we're operating out of there during the Autopen administration. All of that coming to a screeching halt in the last 9 months of Donald Trump's second term in office. And thanks be to God for that, because they are the unsung heroes in all of this. And this week, as we honor veterans and the countless people who have put on those uniforms to defend the United States of America, it's also those at the domestic level, the localities to state police in conjunction with federal agents, even Governor Glenn Youngkin of the Commonwealth of Virginia stating that if it was not for the partnership that they had at the Department of Justice, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Border Czar Tom Homan, he would be at a loss, including Kristi Noem, the great Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, because it is a violation of federal law, according to Title VIII, with harboring illegal aliens. And we've had Governor J.B. Pritzker out there again going after law enforcement for proudly displaying their pictures in front of what's known as Chicago's Bean, otherwise its official name of Skygate, which, as a Chicagoland native, I'm still confused as to why that even is sitting in the city. It's an odd structure, and it's really not worth your time. But if you'd like to go visit it, feel free to do so in a much safer city. That's thanks to President Trump and thanks to these federal forces. Not that of Mayor Brandon Johnson, who's hovering right now between a 4 to 6% approval rating. So we'll see how his next election goes as he continues to divulge in racist tropes and attacking law enforcement and really odd comments geared towards the President of the United States. You think he'd like to pick up that phone and simply ask to partner up with a commander-in-chief who is focused on the safety of the United States. And once again, the numbers do not lie. President Trump, because of his leadership, because of his cabinet, getting the job done, not because of Mr. Johnson nor Mr. Pritzker, but because of President Donald Trump. Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, Illinois. 16% decreases in homicide since that began. 35% decrease in shootings. A 41% decrease in robberies. Also a 48% decrease in carjackings and a 20% decrease in transit crime. And that was all brought on by the initial use of National Guard and federal authorities within the federal city and the District of Columbia. The proof is in the pudding that this administration has put the American people first in regards to safety and now is laser focused on this economy. And again, with Operation Dirtbag in Florida, Secretary Noem stating that 150 illegal migrant sexual predators have been nabbed. So as we watch all of this extraordinarily closely, President Trump will meet tonight and host a dinner on behalf of those on Wall Street who have a say or two in the American economy. And President Trump has been very clear. He wants Wall Street to do well. He wants Main Street to do well. And many economists, many friends of ours here at the network, are predicting that because of the communist election of Mr. Mamdani in New York City, will Wall Street go elsewhere? Can it go to a financial mecca that has become Dallas, Texas? Will it move down to Florida? What will happen to major media outlets? Will they join us down here in the Southeast? Your humble correspondent has an opinion or two about that, because this part of the country is quite delightful. Even as it got somewhat cold this week, those temperatures begin to rise again, and it's rare that you see snow, although you've seen some down here in the Southeast United States across Alabama and Georgia. But there's a reason why the president's policies and the use of tariffs and his visits over to the Indo-Pacific have brought great companies like Hyundai and Toyota to produce and manufacture their cars right here in the United States and this region of the country, from Louisiana to Alabama and Georgia, seeing an increase in all of that. And you could see it. It's a major difference here with huge automotive factories and plants not too far from the RSBN studio. So we watch all of that closely as President Trump has really conquered globalization. The last 25 to 30 years of Republican neocon policy, of Democrat neoliberal policy, and that of the living predecessors of President Trump, Bill Clinton to George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and ultimately the auto pen, all on display in that Presidential Hall of Fame on the 45-second walk from the residence in the mansion to the Oval Office. I just learned recently as well that those portraits will be getting tiny plaques under them to highlight some of the successes of former commanders in chief. As President Trump put it in a recent interview from this week, these are tough people. These are serious people. But that of the auto pen gets just that, the auto pen, as we keep learning of cognitive decline, as we keep watching Arctic frost and this operation ordered by Christopher Wray, the former FBI director, in April of 2022, intended on spying upon 9 Republican United States senators, colleagues, and hundreds of those of Republican conservative ilk inside and outside of the Beltway. Something you could point back to with the use of the Patriot Act, which was supposed to be temporary, which in some ways did its job finding foreign terrorists and bringing them to justice. But like those held at Guantanamo, we've seen in the last few years how some have not received a speedy trial, whether it's going back to January 6th, to those who were simply protesting outside of abortion clinics and so-called healthcare providing facilities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They did not see their Sixth Amendment rights under the Auto Pen administration. Also, those who chose to go to school board meetings where their children, K through 12, were exposed to pornography, whether it be in photography or pictures or heinous descriptions of different sexual acts, whether homosexual to heterosexual or anything in between. Those people also were arrested and investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigations under the Auto Pen. All of that being reformed under the great leadership of this cabinet and this president of the United States. Thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. It's an early Black Friday special from our dear friend Mike Lindell. It's a children's Bible story bundle, and these pillows can remind your little loved ones that Jesus does love them. Yes, he does. It's a 5-pack, $29.98. mypillow.com/RSBN. Use that promo code RSBN. Very easy to remember. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. You can shop now at mypillow.com/RSBN. Save with code RSBN right now. An early Black Friday sale, a special from our dear friend Mike Lindell. We know how Jesus Christ changed his life. He has changed countless in this conservative movement, which gets more exciting by the day. Why not share these amazing stories with your loved ones with the 5-pack mypillow.com/RSBN under $30. You get 5 pillows under $30. He's the master marketer. 800-836-7566, mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mike Lindell. If you like what you see here at this network, we are your go-to rally network, but also your go-to live desk. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate. You may also text RSBN to 801-801. We also have an address for check or money order at 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6. It's box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Feel free to support us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're small but mighty, and we will continue to speak the truth. We will continue to showcase all these speeches, these press conferences, these dinners in their entirety, inside and outside of the Beltway. Full coverage of your 45th and 47th President of the United States, the 50th Vice President, the First Lady, the Second Lady, and the Trump and Vance families who have sacrificed so much to make America great again, and that 119th Congress. Government might reopen. God willing, it does. 40-plus days into this nightmare, where we've seen some delays. We've seen people go without food. We've seen people having to choose between essentials and the commodities of what's needed on a day-to-day living basis here in the United States of America, all because of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a job which he might not have in the near future. But let's keep on with the right side of history, the correct side of history. Then you can donate here at rsbnetwork.com/donate or text RSBN to 801-801. It's exciting to be part of the new media against legacy media items that many times are anti-American or simply present a story as cold, hard truth. We are unafraid of where the breadcrumbs lead and will continue to be on the right side of history thanks to you, the good viewers of RSBN at 7:40 Eastern. Welcome to RSBN Prime Time. I'm Robert McNeely as we await President Trump to host a dinner. Also, just down the street, it's just down Pennsylvania Avenue, in fact, the Congress meeting together in the House, debating whether or not they'll move forward on the reforms from the United States Senate. If that does pass tonight, it's a 217 vote threshold that's needed. Of course, the Republicans have a 219 to 214 lead over the Republicans, over the Democrats, a very slim margin of majority, with still 2 vacancies in the United States House. One that's still being recounted from Texas 18, and that vote taking place with roughly 7 candidates from last week. It's a Houston district that is very, very gerrymandered, worth looking up. Democrat plus 21 on the Cook PVI, if you're familiar with that index to rate the likelihood of what direction it will go, likely in safe Democrat hands, with 5 Democrats running for that seat, 2 Republicans in a jungle-esque primary of sorts for that general election last Tuesday. And on December 2nd, the election to replace Mark Green of Tennessee's 7th congressional district. We'll be watching all that for full force to be on the court in the House of Representatives. And a provision which surprised the House Speaker and also leadership, I guess, on the other side of the aisle, with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York, a provision to protect and civil pursuits for those Republicans who were spied on by Arctic frost. So we'll watch all of that. That might lead to someone like a Thomas Massie voting no on this potentially. We'll watch all of that. Of course, he is from Kentucky's 4th congressional district as we await President Trump to host a dinner and the potential getting out of this government shutdown by the end of the week. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as we take a quick commercial break for sponsors. We're proud to have you on this Wednesday evening in the primetime.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are awaiting President Trump to host a dinner of Wall Street executives. In the meantime, it's been Veterans Day week, and as we celebrate those who selflessly serve the United States of America, who choose to volunteer and put on that uniform, President Trump having a remarkable 23-minute or less, roughly just over 22 minutes, yesterday at Arlington National Cemetery, always moving to witness the commander-in-chief there at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And those countless Americans, including two presidents, who rest in that aisle upon aisle of gray and white stone, serving the ultimate sacrifice for their nation on the former plantation of Confederate General Robert Edward Lee. It's a wonderful place to remain quiet and to feel the Holy Spirit and to thank God for the people who have served in countless conflicts to keep this nation free. So if you've not visited Arlington, Virginia, I implore you to do so when you can. And to watch the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, a Marine veteran himself, the first Marine to serve in the role of Vice President, along there with Secretary of the Veteran Affairs, in fact, Doug Collins of the great Peach State of Georgia, all saluting the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It was a moving moment just yesterday. But in addition to that, All Family Pharmacy running a special for Veterans Day and for Veterans Week to celebrate those who have given of their time, their talent, their treasure, and in many cases been away from family and friends and postponed their own dreams in order to defend the founding principles nearly 250 years young. God bless them for doing so. And it's always appropriate, those in uniform, whenever you see them, just say thank you. Even the police officers, our state and local forces who do a thankless job in so many cases. And sadly, you have some organizations like Antifa who do not want them to succeed in being peace officers. But I believe that most people are good here in America, and they care deeply about those who wear the uniform, and that's why All Family Pharmacy is committed to those who do serve. And I had a recent interview with the great Michael Kunzler, co-owner of the organization. You can visit all of these great life-saving medications at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can hear more from Michael now regarding the All Family Pharmacy Veterans Special going on this week. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's Michael Kunzler, our friend and co-owner of All Family Pharmacy, where you can find that at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Veterans Day this week, we're celebrating the good old U.S. of A. and inspired by those who sacrifice so much to protect us. Included in the sale, can you dive into that for us, Michael?
Sure. So we decided to do a 25% off sale on all medications. So you'll be able to receive 25% off ivermectin, antibiotics, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, any one of those products, whether it's a new order or our existing patients will be able to utilize it on a refill, which is awesome. And then as well as we're doing it on the vitamins, one of our vitamin companies, Operation Wellness, which we could dive more into. You'll also be able to see 25% off of those as well.
Yes, please tell us about this Operation Wellness.
Operation Wellness is our way of providing our over-the-counter supplements and vitamins to our patients, to our base. We know that these vitamins are of the highest purity. Everything is made here in the U.S. with our manufacturers. The reason we wanted to go this route is because we want to make sure that if we do provide vitamins to our patients, that it's a good quality company. So we oversee all of that, as well as the Operation Wellness has proceeds that we could jump into towards veterans. And specifically, the Veterans Day sale will also add to those proceeds to some of our organizations that we work directly with.
That's fantastic. It is really that time of year to not only celebrate those who are defending us in the line of battle, but also really to reflect on what we're grateful for as we approach Thanksgiving here. And we heard part of the proceeds from this Operation Wellness goes directly toward veterans' families. So how does that work?
So it's roughly around 10% of our total sales we donate every year to an organization called Children of the Fallen Patriots. The reason why we fell in love with this organization is I believe it's 99% of all proceeds are actually donated. By law, they have to state what percentage of donations are actually donated to those organizations. So outside of the 99 percentile of proceeds that are donated, it goes to the Children of the Fallen Patriots, meaning the family members of those who have obviously passed away in the line of duty or the active war. And so it helps them with schooling. It helps them with mental health. It helps them with college, high school, living expenses. It helps them with a numerous amount of funds that they'll need to get themselves through everyday life. Unfortunately, we've been to these events the last, I would say, 2 years. We've been a part of the organization donating. And it's a wonderful organization. It's a very sad thing to see, but it's a great cause, and we believe so highly in it.
And why is it important for All Family Pharmacy to give back in such a special way, especially to the Children of Fallen Patriots?
Well, we are a family-owned pharmacy. We're all about family. We're all about community. We started off as a community pharmacy here, and we started off as a family-owned pharmacy who just provides nothing but the best services to our patients. And we've grown over the years, and look where we are now. We're on RSBN talking about our business that we started off so small with. And so we felt as a family organization, we could provide those benefits and donations to the children who really need it the most. Some of them aren't even children now. They're in college and, they need money. They need to get through schooling. They just unfortunately don't have either that one single parent or they don't have both parents anymore. And so we feel it's a great place for us to donate our proceeds to.
Yes, and thank you for doing that, because it's such an honor to talk to you about the things that can actually save people's lives and then also prep them for this fall flu season where those sniffles come running in and then all of a sudden the whole household is sick. But how long will the Veterans Day sale run, and how can people take advantage of the 25% offer?
So the sale will run Monday through Wednesday. Traditionally, sales companies only do it on one day. The reason why we don't do it on one day is because we give our patients the time to place these orders. They may be working all day Veterans Day. They may not be available. Their kids might be home all day with them, as some schools are closed. So we give people that additional time to place these orders. So we give you 3 days for Veterans Day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it'll end Wednesday at midnight. And in order to take advantage of the sale, you just use RSBN 25 as your coupon code. So RSBN 25, no spaces, all one word, and you'll be able to save 25% off your entire order. We didn't put any restrictions on it. It's on all medications. So you can browse the website, look for stuff that you may need during flu season. And one of the things I've always suggested as we talked here on your network is the maximum immune support. One of my favorite vitamins. I've been taking it since COVID. I've got a lot of insight from our doctors over the years, and high doses of vitamin C, vitamin D, quercetin, and zinc are very important during flu season to keep your immune system very high and no vulnerabilities to any of these viruses that are coming.
Fantastic. It's All Family Pharmacy at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN with this very generous Veterans Day sale. And Michael, a great USA soccer shirt as we get ready for 2026, not only the midterms, but the World Cup. That'll be fun to watch. And you can take these life-saving medications with you on the road, too. So even though people are probably stocking up with their medicine cabinets, they can fit right in your carry-on.
Yeah, absolutely. What a time now when everybody's traveling, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, all the holidays are right around the corner. This is the perfect time to stock up on the meds. You don't want to be caught in a bind being out of state or being away from your home and not having any of these types of medications that you need. So it's a perfect time to stock up, especially with this discount.
Yes, sir. Michael Kunzler, All Family Pharmacy with the Veterans Day special this week. Thank you again for joining us on the Right Side of History.
Thank you.
So some things change in the news, hence new as the basis for news. As we cover the latest from the Trump White House, this event has become closed press. So unfortunately, we will not be having that pool feed and that coverage directly of the president meeting tonight with those Wall Street executives. So we will bid you adieu for the evening, although we did receive an email from the White House stating that it seems as if the White House is confident that the House will pass this H.R. 5371, the continuing appropriations, and then ultimately reopen the government. So that could happen this evening in the Oval Office. Outside of that, at 5 minutes to 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and a very happy hour of 5 o'clock on the Golden Coast of California. I'm Robert McNeely. We say good night to you for all of my colleagues here on the right side of history. May God bless you on this Wednesday evening, and we'll see you again very soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.